everybody. Welcome back to the Hot Mic Show, live from Los Angeles. I'm Bill Whittle, and before we get back to our show, congratulations, Colleen Noir, on 6 years on NRATV. That's remarkable. It's been a real honor and a pleasure to sit in for you as a guest host sometime, and been great talking to you at some of the conventions, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again. But that's a big achievement in this line of work, so congratulations to you, Colleen. I'm back with our guest, Steve Solomon, who is a former military intelligence analyst. He's a pastor, and he has a show called The Steve Solomon Show. We're talking about Christianity and the pop culture and the hostility towards Christianity. And Stephen, one of the things that charges that the left often levels against Christians, atheists too for that matter, is this idea of hypocrisy, that you say one thing and do something else. And I think an interesting example of this is this. If Ted Cruz were to commit an act of adultery, then that would be rank hypocrisy of the worst kind and an indication that Christianity is a sham. If Bill Clinton were to commit an act of adultery, well, that'd just be Bill Clinton. So what we're really dealing with here is when the left and progressives accuse Christians of hypocrisy because of their moral failures, and we all have moral failures, what they're really saying is, see, if you didn't have any moral code at all, like me, for example, you wouldn't have to be saying one thing and doing something else. How would you respond to that hypocrisy charge?
Yeah, that's a great point, Bill. I use a phrase that I think is most prevalent in our culture all the time. It's the "don't judge me" phrase. And I use it on my show a lot to kind of show my listeners where our culture is. They don't want to be judged about anything. It's got to the point where you can't even judge a person's gender. You can't even look at somebody and go, oh, you're a man, oh, you're a woman. You're not allowed to do that anymore. Judging is the worst possible thing. So obviously, one of the great points of Christianity is we are fallen. We can't fix ourselves. We need a Savior, and it's Jesus Christ. And He's going to help get us through this world of sin and into perfection eventually in heaven. But the point of the matter is, we don't judge other people for their sin. We simply point out the standard that is Jesus Christ. And it's, Bill, I don't think it's necessarily the fact that if Ted Cruz were to fall into adultery versus Bill Clinton, that they would call out Ted Cruz. And I know they would. Your point is valid. But I think it's more of a point that we are holding people to a standard. And when you hold people to a standard, they don't like that because it shows that they have fallen short.
Yeah, there's a study came out just not long ago. I'm going to do a firewall about this recent study that showed that moral outrage, this preening, this moral outrage on all of it is really a result of a lack of internal morality on your own. That's an interesting point we'll come back to. So, Stephen, let's just close with you real quick. We're almost out of time. But basically, what's going to happen to this country if this happens? Because it's one thing to have religion fall away, and we've seen that happen. It's another thing to have it actually attacked as it has been attacked. You cannot run a republic without virtuous people. That doesn't mean you have to have Christian people, but it does mean you have to have virtuous people. And the essential element of Christianity, at least as I understand it, is that rather than having some government body saying you can't have Las Vegas, you can have Las Vegas and you can go there and you can drink and you can fool around and you can gamble, do all these things. It's your internal virtue that's going to protect you. And if you have people who are internally virtuous, then you can have a free society. And if they're not virtuous, then you got to put down the boot.
Yeah, two things to that right there. First off, I think it's going to get worse. And specifically, I think it's going to get worse because of sexuality. If you look at government control of children when it comes to education and child protective services, I think the next big thing coming down the pipe is this transgender stuff, where if a kid says, I'm a boy and he's really a girl, and you've got a Christian family that says, no, we don't buy into that, you're not going to be able to do that. I think we're going to start seeing later on governments coming in and saying, you're abusing your child, we're taking them away from you. So that's the first point I want to make. The second point very quickly is, every time in history that the church has been persecuted or has been beat down by the government, there's been a massive explosion of revival. You look at China, there's a massive underground Christian church in China. The early church under the Roman Empire, they were burned at the stake. They were tossed into the Colosseum, and the gospel exploded. So on the spiritual side of things, it might get worse physically, but the gospel would be spread if historical trends hold up.
That is Stephen Solomon, ladies and gentlemen, and you can hear him on the Stephen Solomon Show. Strikes me as the kind of guy that makes the world go round and certainly made this country what it is today. Stephen, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks especially for your service in the military, and hopefully we'll see you back again real soon.
Thank you, Bill. Always good to see you.
Well, folks, over the hill here in Hollywood, there is a moral code, and the moral code is that there is no moral code. And simply what I want right now, all the time. And when those people start affecting everybody else and their kids, there are going to be consequences, and they're not going to be pleasant ones. We'll be back tomorrow on the Hot Mic Show from Los Angeles. I'm Bill Whittle here for NRATV.